Good afternoon. Welcome to the Chinese American World War II Veterans Congressional Gold Medal Presentation Ceremony. Thank you. For Chinese American World War II veterans in the New York area. Please rise for the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Again, welcome to today's Chinese American World War II Veterans Congressional Gold Medal Presentation Ceremony. I am Phil Wang, the President of Chinese American Citizens Alliance, Greater New York, CACAGNY for short. And it gives me and all of CACAGNY the great pleasure to host the Greater New York presentation of the Congressional Gold Medals to our veterans from the greatest generation. We thank and honor our World War II veterans for their services in a challenging time for the world. We thank Major General William Chen, Major General Darrell Wang, and Major General Garrett Yee for joining us today, as well as Ed Gore, our past national CACA president, who has led the charge on this CGM project, as well as our other distinguished guests who was here in our session one, Congressman Lee Zeldin, the Lieutenant Colonel of the USAR. We in CACAGNY are focused on fighting discrimination against Chinese and Asians, particularly in education. In New York, firstly, with our lawsuits and protests against the city and the Department of Education for its discrimination against Asians. We also lend support to other communities fighting the same battle against discrimination. From California to defeat Proposition 16, to Virginia, Massachusetts, and Washington states, we have taken a stand against the critical race theory that is spreading racial hatred and harming Asian Americans and all Americans of all races and ethnicities. A theory that demands that all people be judged, rewarded, or punished by race in schools, It is harmful to Asian Americans and Americans of every color and ethnicity. It is un-American. But while we are fighting currently for our rights here, our elders have fought also for our rights that were in great peril during World War II. The American defense of our allies in the bloodiest conflict in history kept alive not only our allies, but also the American way. This is what this ceremony is about. Service to our nation and world as we fought against tyranny globally. We recognize our Chinese American World War II vets for their service so we, of the later generation, could have better lives. With that, I would like to ask Wei Hua-chin, CACAGNY's Charter President and Greater New York Chinese American World War II Veterans Recognition Project Leader, to introduce our distinguished guests and presenters. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. It's great to be here on a very significant day of recognizing our veterans. I'm going to keep this extremely short because you're going to hear much more important words on this whole project and the wonderful actions and deeds and achievements of your parents and grandparents. I'd like to talk about Ed Gore. He's the past national president of the Chinese American Citizens Alliance, who came up with this idea and talked about how do we recognize our Chinese American World War II vets who are getting much, much older. It's not an easy task when you have many of them no longer able to share their stories and histories, but Ed worked on this from day one, 5 years ago, to start thinking about how do you get this past a Congress legislation and then raise funds to get the medals to your hands, the design work, organizing these ceremonies with the military, checking all of the backgrounds. That was only possible also by our wonderful generals that we'll talk about later. But right now, Ed Gore, would you please give us some remarks on this whole project?
Thank you, Wei Hua and Phil. I just want to thank members of the CACA Greater New York Lodge for hosting this event. It's a wonderful event for several reasons. Number one is the fact that this project was started right here in New York City. I just happened to be right place, right time, or wrong place, right time. But these are ideas that are spawned from people who have great vision, who gave me the idea that this ought to be something that we should do. After seeing the Nisei and the Filipino American soldiers of World War II receive their Congressional Gold Medal, they said to me in a group, hey, why don't you guys do this for your veterans? And I thought, what a great idea that is. And today we are realizing that particular reality of getting the Congressional Gold Medal, having presented to you by three men here who really exemplify what a Chinese American who desires to succeed and strive in their lives can do in the military, because these are at least major generals, and we have rear admirals as well who are part of this committee. So thank you guys for being here. They'll have some remarks in a minute. How many of you actually knew anything about your father or mother, your grandparents serving in World War II? So some of you actually had parents that talked to you on occasion. But these are not the easy stories to talk about, especially back in those days when their lives were really around struggle, around raising families. So this is kind of one of the reasons I did this. Both my father and father-in-law happened to be World War II veterans, but I can tell you that's not the reason I did it. They would not be ashamed of me for saying that, because they don't like to do things for themselves and they don't want to bring attention to themselves. But for others, they saw this as a worthwhile project. I just want to go through the real quick things about how this project started. You have to introduce two bills into Congress, House and Senate, get 2/3 of the vote in each house, and to do that, it's very difficult. Everyone can tell you that it's very difficult to pass any bill in one session of Congress. Is that in your civics lessons? They tell you how to do it, but they don't tell you how long and how long and persistent you have to be to get that bill passed. So I would say to you that all of you who helped with advocacy in getting this bill passed, whether you wrote a letter, made a phone call, visit your congressman on the Hill, that all led to the fact that this bill was passed in one single session of Congress. So, you know, you can give yourselves applause, but also want to applaud all the people across the United States who helped with this project. Because you know, there's not every Chinese American lives in every state. Very few live in Utah, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. So you can imagine how difficult it is to get those votes. But I want to tell you how important it is for you today, if you're a recipient coming forward to get this medal from one of the major generals here, what your responsibility is. For us to be successful in part of the effort that we're doing here, the objective not only to get the medal, but also to provide education to the greater community. One of the things we can do to quell anti-Asian hate is let people know, why are you hating on us? We fought and served side by side in every war since the Civil War, and we continue to serve our country in the same way everyone else has. So it's up to you as a next of kin, when you get your medal, to take it home, find more of the stories of your veteran, whether it's your grandmother, grandfather, father, mother, uncle, aunt, even brother, sister, who served in the war, who came back and successfully negotiated all of the things they couldn't do here in the United States because they weren't citizens, but were able to do so despite all of that. And because you're a descendant of a World War II veteran, you have that responsibility to not only show this medal off to friends and neighbors and that, but also help us out by finding ways to donate a medal to a school like this, to a library, to a historical society, museum, so that that becomes a point of emphasis and a point of interest to others who are not Chinese American or Chinese even. Now, if you pass this medal on to your grandson, granddaughter, great-grandchild, pass that same responsibility to them. If they're going to get the medal, they have that same responsibility to your veteran to tell the story. And if you don't tell the story, you've kind of not helped us out with this entire project. That'll be your point. This is a gift from the many donors who have come forward and helped us purchase these medals. And it's a gift from people like CACA here in New York and across the country, the people who have advocated for the bill, like the generals here, for myself. It would mean so much to us for you to perpetuate the story. So today, thank you, those of you who are here to represent your veteran from New York and New Jersey. It's an honor for us to be here. They will tell you the same thing. We wanted Chinese American flag officers, rear admirals, and generals to present this medal to you. It's important to them to do it because they know the story better than I do, and probably better than many of you do. Because your parents have rarely talked about these things, but these gentlemen know. They know what an honor it is to have the medal presented to you. Thanks for being here. I know it's been difficult the last several days because of all the pandemic issues, but thank you for your courage in coming out, because I think you thought it was important enough to be here. If your dad's name's being called or your grandmother's name being called, come up here, have the picture taken, and be proud of the fact that you're representing the Toisan, the people from southern China, the Guangdong, the Choksain like myself. How many of you are Choksain, by the way? Okay. All right, I got you. All right. Put your hand down. Don't need to admit it anymore. We've been hiding for a long time, but this is a time for you to be proud of where you are, where you came from, and who you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. It's a pleasure to work with Ed. You know, he brings an amazing charm to all his stories. But anyway, now I'd like to introduce one of the generals who has worked very long and hard, not just on this project. This project, he obviously has done a lot of work for the last 5 years, but he's given tremendous service to the country. I'm delighted to welcome Major General William Chen, the U.S. Army retired from service after 32 years. He served as commanding general and command program executive officer for the missile defense and led the development of the Army's national and theater missile defense programs. And he was the first Chinese American to reach the rank of Major General in the U.S. Army, a rank that has not been exceeded by any Chinese American. With that, General Chen, would you please give us our keynote remarks?
I'd like to highlight to you the significance of the service and sacrifices of our World War II veterans. The primary basis for the award of the Congressional Gold Medal to Chinese American World War II veterans is their service in spite of the discriminatory aspects of the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, still in place until it was repealed in December of 1943. Of the 20,000 Chinese Americans who served in World War II, about 40% were non-U.S. citizens. Yet they volunteered or were drafted, and they proudly served as Americans. Now, at that time, here in the mainland United States and territory of Hawaii, the population of Chinese in America and Chinese Americans was roughly 100,000. So 20,000 serve. That's 1/5, a very high percentage compared to other ethnic groups. And so we who are descendants of Chinese American World War II veterans must remember, honor, and preserve their contributions, their deeds and accomplishments, and their legacy. And so what did they do? They made known to the American public who Chinese Americans were, because pre-World War II, the Chinese in America lived largely among themselves. They lived and did business in the Chinatowns across the country, some in the rural areas. But in their service in World War II, they served in every theater of war. They got to know their fellow Americans. And so they made known to the American public who Chinese Americans were. And they certainly demonstrated their skills, competency, patriotism, and loyalty. And post-World War II, some of you may be beneficiaries of the fact, not just of their using the GI Bill, but they're using the 1945 War Brides Act. Some of you may not be here were it not for the War Brides Act, when they had an opportunity to bring their fiancés, brides, wives, etc., here to the United States. So, what we need to remember is their hard work and their sacrifices, their emphasis, for example, on the value of education, where many of you are all college graduates. And so they enabled that us in the follow-on generations live the American dream. And so as we gather here today, what we need to do is to preserve that legacy. And we owe them a huge debt, and certainly it's up to you and your follow-on generations to carry on what I call the legacy of progress and the progress that Chinese Americans make here in the United States community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Chen, for your thoughtful and inspiring words. We are here because so many of our forebears have done such amazing deeds, and we owe them deep gratitude, which is what this is all about. Now, I would like to ask for our general from Hawaii, who has made a long trip to our warm and sunny city. He spent last night skating in Rockefeller Center. We could probably share some pictures about that. But It gives me great pleasure to introduce Major General Daryl Wang, who's from the U.S. Air Force, and he asked me not to mention too much of his position. So he's been a leader in the U.S. military and Hawaii state government, and positions ranging from the Adjutant General of the state of Hawaii to Director in State of Civil Defense and Homeland Security Advisor in Hawaii, and he was a pilot in the Vietnam War. Thank you very much, General Daryl.
That just
Wang.
thank you. That all that means is you're really old. So actually, I wanted to come up here and just thank you for allowing me to be here to honor your relatives. And I say that with a lot of humility because most of us veterans, Chinese veterans today, would not be here if it weren't for your relatives. So in Hawaii, World War II started, and Arizona remains under Pearl Harbor, but it also houses the Missouri, which is where the war ended. So Hawaii is quite an interesting place. 1 out of every 10 people in Hawaii are veterans. And with the Arizona Memorial, as well as the Missouri there, we're reminded day after day the things that our World War II veterans did. And the saying that we have there is we will never forget. So after going through a lot of this and, being in some wars myself, I really understood your relatives, our World War II veterans, truly are the greatest generation. So when they asked if I would come, there wasn't, it was immediate. Yes, I'll come to New York because you have a lot of World War II veterans. And the object is for us, the younger generation, to honor them because they truly are the greatest generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Wang. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Major General Garrett S. Yee from the U.S. Army. And he's the assistant to the director of the Defense Information Systems Agency in direct support of the president and the DOD, and there are too many in between. So I'll leave it to you because they can do it much better than I can.
Good to be here, and thanks for having us. So I always wondered what a Hawaiian general looked like, and I guess now I know. But, Bill drove 5 hours from Boston. That's north, I think, of here. And then Daryl flew like 12 hours to get here. I drove 4.5 hours from Maryland to be here. So this is important for us. My father served in World War II, as did two of my uncles. My dad passed in 2014. Couldn't be here today, but here in spirit with all of us. And so I know you all have personal stories. And you wouldn't have three Chinese American 2-star generals sitting in front of you today if not for those that served honorably during World War II. No kidding. And so today is an opportunity to reflect and be thankful for those that came before us. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much, General Yee. And now we have a very special presentation of the Bronze Star Medal. It is a great privilege for us to be in the presence of this presentation to a family member of someone who served with great valor. Please, General Chen and General Wang, would you please present the last of today's Bronze Star medals?
The Bronze Star Medal is the nation's fourth highest combat award. During World War II, in many respects, Chinese American and other minority group members were ignored or not fully recognized for their actions in combat. As part of the CACA, Chinese American Veterans Recognition Act, as we reviewed our veterans for eligibility of the Congressional Gold Medal, we also reviewed their records for eligibility of combat action awards. and we submitted recommendations to the Army. Today, as part of this ceremony, we recognize veteran Harry Chen, and he has been awarded the Bronze Star Medal. And accepting is his daughter, Alice Twardowski. Please step forward. Attention to orders. Please, everyone rise for the reading of the citation. The President of the United States, authorized by Executive Order 24 August 1962, has awarded the Bronze Star Medal to Private Harry Chen, Anti-Tank Company, 15th Infantry Regiment, for meritorious achievement in active ground combat against the enemy on 17 April 1945 with the 24th Infantry Division in Mindanao Province, Philippine Islands. Given under my hand this day, 15th day of September 2020, Ryan D. McCarthy, Secretary of the Army. Congratulations. Please be seated.
We want to mention something with him now. Okay. No. Before we present the gold medals, we just want to recap very briefly a presentation that was made of the Kim Lau medal. So Benjamin Kim Lau's own gold medal to the Kim Lau Post over here. Ed Gore, would you please?
Thank you. Earlier today in session one, we had a very interesting handoff of a medal. And because of the project, we were able to locate a descendant of Lieutenant Benjamin Ralph Kim Lau, for whom the current American Legion Post 1291 is named for. So in that instance, Eileen Dong, the first cousin who lives in San Francisco, received her medal on behalf of Lieutenant Kim Lau. She decided, you know, the medal doesn't belong to me in San Francisco. It belongs here in New York City. So we had a ceremony about a month or so ago where Eileen was actually here in New York. She was able to present virtually the medal to past President Wei Chen. And during that time, Eileen spoke very, very much about her cousin. And we had a picture of Lieutenant Kim Lau when he was in the service. And Eileen was probably 5 years old at the time. And it tells us a lot about his life because he was killed in action by the Japanese over Los Negros Islands. He's buried in the area. And what it means to you here as a member, some of you are members of Kim Lau Post. How many of you are? Just a few of you in this session. We've had quite a few all throughout the day who've been members of Kim Lau Post. And for them to know the story, and for them to know now that the Congressional Gold Medal has been presented to him, now living and residing in New York City at the Kim Lau Post, please take an opportunity to go by the Post. Tell them you want to see the Congressional Gold Medal for Lieutenant Benjamin Ralph Kim Lau, who died during service to our country. There's also a one-page tribute that we took of the story of his life. It's very, very brief, but actually doesn't even capture many of the things he did. That is also going to be posted on the walls of the American Legion Post here. So we had that ceremony this afternoon earlier, and so I just want to let you know you have an opportunity to do that. Please honor his memory by visiting that someday. It is worthwhile reading about his story. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to begin the presentation of the Congressional Gold Medals. We're going to first start with anybody who has any mobility issues. So if there is anybody here that cannot do the steps, we'll first do them, okay? So Phil, if you could get the cards for that. And then afterwards, what we'll do is do it row by row. You will come up and on this side with your cards. So, okay. James Lee Chan, Army Air Forces, accepted by Richard L. Chan, his son. Yeah. Son John Kong, U.S. Army. Oh, it's not. It's Navy. I can see that. That's Navy. All right, U.S. Navy. Accepting on his behalf, Raymond Gong, his son. Go up there. Yeah. Harry Chin, U.S. Army. Accepting on behalf is his daughter Alice Chodgosky. Doc Quay Fung, U.S. Army, accepting on, is this yours? On his behalf is his grandchild, Su Fung. Jen Hak Kong, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf is his grandson, Kevin Young. Albert G.W. Chin, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his daughter, Janice Lum. Okay. Both daughters. Okay. Chun K. Lee, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his two daughters, Mabel G. Ham and Judy G. Chan. Sin Fee Ham, U.S. Navy, accepting on his behalf his son, Thomas Ham. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I have two over here, but we'll bring them together. It's James Mark, U.S. Army, Janice Chu, of the niece and nephew, and Robert Lee, U.S. Army, Janice Chu, and your name, Warren Chu, the niece and nephew of Robert Lee. Yes, two medals. Your mother couldn't come? Yes, bring her up. Can she come? Can your mother come? Oh, she can't come. I see. Can she stand up at all or not? No, just okay. Hank Hong Hen Ham of the Army Air Forces, and actually his spouse on behalf of it was supposed to be the spouse, but his son was accepting on his behalf. So I will just mention Sophia Ham, and this is Danny Ham, his son. Please. Thank you. Yeah. Can we get a photo of Sophia Ham at least closer? So Sophia Ham, can you come up or closer to the stage at least? Yeah. Okay. Here, please, thank you. Thank you, General Yi. Thank you.
Wait a minute. Can I say a word?
Yeah.
I know there are not very many of you here, but a lot of you can clap a lot louder for these people who are getting their awards, especially the spouse. Come on. Give her a bigger round of applause.
Okay. Tran Qiu Wang, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his son, Alan Wang. Thank you. Song Chao, U.S. Army, May and Rose Chu, their daughters, accepting on his behalf. Erwin Au, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf. Mary Hasler, his daughter. Ngui Park Lam, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his daughter, Susan W. Eng. Chun Chi Wei, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf Robert Chun, his son. Do Yuan Chin, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf Carol Chin, his daughter. Thu Chi Chin, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his wife, Kui Wan Chin, and his daughter, Ellen Moy. More applause. Hua Heng Eng, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his son, Harvey Eng. Si Jung Eng, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his daughter, Jean Eng Chen. Hing Leung Hui, Army Air Forces, Howard Hui and Patricia Hui, the son and daughter, accepting on his behalf. Three. So which one was you? So uncle. Okay, so it's Donald O.E. Okay, right. All right. Tai H. Liu, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his nephew, Donald O. Yi. Donald has two more to get today. Bing Gun Yi, Army Air Forces, accepted on behalf of him, accepting on behalf is Donald O. Yi, his son. And now George Ginder Wang, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his nephew, Donald O. Yi. So that's two uncles and his father. We can have more applause. That's a whole family business there. There should be three. George Ginder Wang is one, Tai H. Liu is another, and Bing Gun Yi, three. So far, I think that's the most so far. Anybody more? Anybody want to raise that number? Chen F. Chow, aka Will Liang, Army Air Forces, accepting on his behalf his daughter Sandra Chen. Ngoc Lin Lee, U.S. Navy, accepting on his behalf Elizabeth Lee, his daughter. Peter Lee, Army Air Forces, accepting on his behalf his daughter Patricia Lee Farley. Henry W. Chin, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his son Milton Eng. Baldwin Tom, U.S. Navy, accepting on his behalf his son Michael Tom. Yes, I saw your email. Shirk Y. Lee, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf Jin F. Lee. Thank you. Chuck Han Ham, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his son Tai Chiang. Fong S. Wing, aka Gat Ding Lee, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf grand niece Phyllis Chan Carr. Kenneth N. Chan, Army Air Forces, accepting on his behalf grandchild Patrick Carr. Okay, Frank. This one. Two brothers. Okay. Ham Hong, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his two sons, Robert Ham and Frank Ham. It's heavy. You could hear it. 2 sons, yes. Chen Ark Liang, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his 2 sons, Albert Liang and Eugene Liang. Stanley G.W. Lee, Army Air Forces, accepting on his behalf his son, Gary Lee. Troy Sun Chin, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his grandchild, Alex Wong. Son and daughter, too? Alfred Hong, Army Air Forces, accepting on his behalf his daughter, Julia Hong Sabella. Oh, it's you. Jin W. Su, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf Sue Kubiadis, his daughter. Okay. Wei B. Wang, U.S. Army.
Okay, don't worry about that. We only want these.
Yeah. So
Okay, no, yeah, just these 2.
just these 2. So, okay. Wei B. Wang, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf Philip Wang, his nephew, and David W. Wang, Army Air Forces, accepted on his behalf your son, right? The Benjamin Harley Wang, the grandnephew. So that's his son. Okay. Okay, sure. Arthur W. Chan, U.S. Army, accepting on his behalf his daughter, Andrea Chan.
Hey. Humby Porn, Army Air Force, accepting his granddaughter, Pamela Tom. Arthur C. Leong, Army Air Forces, accepting his son, Keith Leong. How are you? Hiroshima. Chi Kwan Ham, United States Army, accepting his daughter, Lorraine Terracina. Hello, how are you? Chen Fong Kin, U.S. Army, accepting his son, David Chen, and granddaughter, Elizabeth Chen. Okay, we're going to finish strong. More applause. Yun N.G. Get, U.S. Army, Susan Liu, granddaughter. Great to have the grandchildren come get the medal for their grandfather or grandmother. Hey Ham, Army Air Forces, accepting his son, Albert Ham. Han Chung Ing, Merchant Marines, accepting his son, Gregory Ing. Oh, this is okay. And I think the last one gets the rest of the medals on the floor. Chow Chuk Ing, Merchant Marines. His son, Dennis Ing. Okay, you want to finish it? I think that's it. I think we're done.
Oh, we're done.
I think so.
Wow, we did it. Okay. 5:30. Thank you very much, everybody, our CAWW2 vet families. We're so proud and honored to be part of this ceremony. I want to thank Generals Chen, Generals Yi, and Wang for coming from all over the country to present these medals. Again, it's a very important event for us who are working on it, as well as for those recipients here. And I want to thank you all for being part of this family of America and its service through all these generations. Thank you, and happy holidays all. Yes.
Hang on to them.
Yes. You know, I think that we might have messed up all sorts of things, but, you know,